Hello, welcome to Automat Live Coding. This is the stream where we write Automat, a tool for game automation. I can actually show you because I have it open around here. So here's Automat, and a small device composed of smaller pieces that can recognize when a space is being pressed. I think right now it's not active, but if I activate this with start monitoring, it's going to start this whole contraption here. And what it does is it has first it has a switch. So that switch can be used to toggle something on or off. Then it has a timer which waits for some number of milliseconds. You can configure timer to even wait for days. But I was actually playing Noita, so we're waiting milliseconds, and this thing here, what it's doing is it's switching the weapons in Noita. So I have Noita running here in the background, and after switching the weapons, it activates the shot. So when I come back to Noita, and my current weapon, okay, this is my current weapon. So normally it shoots like that. There are 3 shots and a pause. 3 shots and a pause. However, when I run this with Automat, it's using this swap weapon glitch to shoot continuously. Yeah. And by pressing space, I can turn this on and off. I can maybe zoom it out so that you can see it working in the corner. I started. So in the bottom left corner you can see Automat kind of clicking the buttons. I can stop it. It's a utility for playing games. It can play more games than Noita. Basically any game should work. And today we are not going to play Noita today. Today we are actually going to add something that's been missing here. It's been actually bugging me. This is probably a very cool feature that I was neglecting for a very long time. And this is the ability to connect different parts of objects with other objects in Automat. So, how Automat works. Automat is a very low-level tool. For each of those objects, they are placed somewhere in memory, and their location in memory is kind of well-defined. They don't move. Those connections, what they are essentially pointers. They say that, hey, this object, literally, a connection is a pointer plus some data that allows us to render it visually. So when you disconnect the connection, the pointer is removed, like it's set to null, so the object immediately stops. It doesn't have any successor to call here. But the thing I wanted to do is that many of those objects, they kind of have sub-objects, like the timer has a number here. Or this one, this space, this key presser, which is probably fixed because it shouldn't be so wide. This has this monitoring boolean. It's not even visualized, so there is no place on this object where I could show this field. It's kind of, it's just not here. So right now, if we look at Automat, I don't need this. We have something called fields in Automat. I'm not sure if there are any objects that actually use this feature. Yeah. So we have these virtual function fields, which was supposed to be used exactly for this. And timer, I think, uses this. Because in timer, it's kind of possible to drag this field out, and it creates sort of like a connection. So the plan for today is to clean this up. So this is, you can see it's clearly not working. I just pulled the connection and dropped it somewhere and it stays there. Totally broken, totally broken. Today we are going to fix this, and I want to make it possible to synchronize and see this is another object that we have. It can capture windows of other apps. And start it maybe. I switch out to Noita. You can see that this is a real-time window capture. That looks like a safe place to stay. Anyway, whatever I'm doing in Noita, you can see it's immediately reflected in this window on the bottom. And this is because Automat has also some features for doing stuff based on the game, of what's happening inside the game. So there is the ability to recognize text. I can hook this up to some region on screen. For instance, let me switch back to Noita.
408034S says,
I thought that's Terraria.
There is something similar between those two. Noita is a little bit more, even more granular than Terraria, so the simulation is on the pixels here, not on blocks. For example, health, right? I have health here. So I could hook up a script to recognize this health number. Let's see if it's recognizing this properly. It should be slightly lower. Okay, it says 55. I need to position this precisely, but okay. We have a number. Now this object, it can be executed similarly to this window capture. Maybe I will position them like that. Maybe like that. It is recognizing text not too well because this plus is confusing it. It says CC, okay. Oh yeah, now it's recognizing 55. So this text, 55, I can actually hook it up to other objects that will compare. Oops. Oh, wow, that was insane. That created a bunch of new objects. I'm surprised it didn't crash anything. Yeah, this is why I want to hook up this space to this window activation state. I don't know if we will be able to do this today because I have about 3 hours to do this, but ideally I would like to put some kind of mechanism inside this button so that it's possible to pull out the monitoring boolean Stop monitoring, please. And connect it with this window activation state. But anyway, what I wanted to show here is that if you have health in the corner of the screen, you can actually, I can start this again now. You can actually hook this up to some other objects, and those other objects will, for example, conditionally activate a healing potion to be drunk. So this number that's here, I could, I don't know, put it here. Will it work? Okay, it won't. It actually crashed the automat. But okay, that's the point. This is still in development. We should fix that crash probably.
As for recognizing health status bar, how does it work at the code level? Ochre? Pixel differences?
Right now, this is using OCR. I was pointing Automat at the text, but in the system we are working with bitmaps. So we have a huge library of functions. We just haven't connected them to right objects. But it should be possible to call OpenCV functions like template matching or just checking pixel values. All sorts of image processing can be done inside the app to extract, the valuable information. Right now, but what I'm talking about is like what will be added. Right now, it's only OCR, so it can, as of today, only do OCR. And that OCR it's not the best OCR. I think it could be using maybe some better model, maybe. Okay, there's also this field shape. Okay, maybe this one is used. Yes, this one is used in some places. So, to show Automat again, I want to make it possible to extract this monitoring boolean out of this key presser. I can do start monitoring. I need to debug this. Why did it crash? Pull this out, zoom in, start monitoring, and it crashes. Okay, let me debug this quickly. Very quick. I want to see where it's some kind of segmentation fault. It has to be in here somewhere. I'm grabbing my object, out, in, and start, and it didn't crash. Okay. I will clean this area so that we have empty space to work with and restart. Should stop now. And let's restart. This is the problem with the biggest problem with Crash is reproducibility. And I will change the title for this stream. It's not Automat versus Noita, it's the feature that I want to implement today is about sharing components of objects. components. Those components, they are fields. I don't know. Let's call this field unification. So this is because there are many relations, many operations. It's not crashing again. Please crash. In this data flow world, it's possible to do regular functions that can observe some values and react to changes in those values, and propagate some kind of data flow through some graph of objects that do computation. But the very specific thing I want to do now is not related to this, because in this whole data flow world, there is one operation which is very unique. This is the identity operation. The thing about identity is that it doesn't require any processing. Actually, it's the opposite. It requires less processing. So multiple objects can now share the same data. Graph object, start. This is definitely happening when I activate menu option. The issue could be happening on this line. Root widget window could be empty, unlikely. Key presser could be empty, I don't know. No, it cannot be empty. So here could be the issue. There is a different way to debug this. I can actually try the release build, and I will hook up a profiler to this. Profiler sometimes can catch those errors. Okay. We did crash. But the call stack is terrible. I have no idea what's happening in the release build. Maybe I can try fast build. Disconnect, connect. This is going to compile for a moment because it needs to rebuild LLVM and a lot of dependencies.
Most understandable error log in C.
So honestly, those addresses, there is a way to figure out where they come from but I would have to build separate files with address maps. It's even my shell is not responsive. This is because I have 24 CPU cores. All of them are doing stuff right now. $24. How is this field shape being used? There are a couple places where we actually are using this thing. I'm wondering, maybe it's not such a bad idea to have this fields function that lists the fields and field shape function. For timer delay, it just returns the path that describes where the field is located. That's fine. Location, field shape. So we have so the way that this is implemented right now, so we are not doing minimize. I was promising we will do minimize to trade today, but we are not. So the way that fields are implemented is that we have there is some kind of callback, if I remember. And there are argument dot tilde. Oh yeah, we have a to-do to remove this. Probably makes sense. How do I want to design this? In the design, I think the most important part is what the user is going to see when using the this thing. It's possible that we will have objects which will have hundreds of fields. So I'm not entirely sure if this was a good idea to have the field shape function here. It can return empty shape, but it's potentially causing issues. Okay, we have regular automat build, and now I can do start monitor. Okay, and it works. One more attempt. It was, I added object, zoomed out, zoomed in, and it was crashing. There it is, a crash. All stuck. Nice, nice. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, so let's take a look at where the issue was coming from. It seems like it was coming from the recording code, the graphics command recording. The only line we have is this one. 342 recorder snap. After that, we are in Skia world. Okay, this is something related to shaders, I think. I cannot unfortunately inspect variables. Maybe I can restart this under debugger. Maybe this zoom out and zoom in is necessary. Unfortunately, this build is very slow to start. This is because it includes a lot of debug data. So it's being... and it has to be hashed. It's hundreds megabytes. Okay, no, we didn't get the crash. Maybe I shouldn't move the window? Once I start this monitoring, I know it works from now on. Maybe this connection? One thing that happens is that the connection appears when I do this. It's not crashing now. Okay, I will figure this out maybe another time. Back to those shapes. Let's say I have a situation like that where I have this window capture connected to something, and I want to connect this monitoring state with the activity of this window. How could this work? Maybe there could be icon here, or maybe the whole window could provide like a Boolean value. So I'm hesitating between two options. Option one is that window is Boolean, meaning that it implements an interface. So this is option A. Option B is window contains like a Boolean on-off object. And the same can be said for the key presser. So the top option will provide a much cleaner design, but it's going to be less flexible because a window can have many properties on off. Same for key presser. Key presser, I think it has like at least 3 different properties. So And the window can also probably have similarly a bunch of those features. Okay, so for keypresser, this is fairly obvious that it should be a member. As for the window, I think if an object implements just one, if an object contains just one field of a given interface, it could just as well be part of the parent object's interface. So here, so the way it would work is that maybe for now I will not add the GUI. It will be done from any. I will right click, I will have a monitoring menu. And when I select monitoring menu, I will have the option to, start and stop. Or bind it to something. And then I would be able to grab this and bind it to this window. Yeah, that sounds like a solution. I think maybe this could be even done by, in general, for all objects. Because this one also has a field, so it would be, I would right click, and here I would have an option called time. Or value or number. So if I would select this number, I would have the option to bind it to something like this. I kind of can do this already. Oh yeah. You even see a connection here. It has some clipping issues. This binding works here. Kind of, because it crashes sometimes. I think maybe it's possible to do this here. So this is the generic function for populating the menu. So what I will do here is I will do fields. I will call this function fields. Or not. I can do this, fields, no, the current model actually does not work. Because I cannot replace the pointer if the object owns the fields. It has to work differently. We need a new interface. Let's call this field. our field. So I think, first of all, I think most objects, when they just need a very simple value, they would probably just store it directly. Inline without any pointers. It would be nice to support this. Oh, this is slightly problematic because objects... No, object doesn't depend on this class. Okay, that's fine. I don't even need a boolean. Latch is weak here. It's 8 bytes, it's just a point. I think. Okay, in object HH, we will have these fields. we cannot unfortunately have this. Hmm. So there is an overlapping function between arguments and fields, and there is also difficulty in putting a template here. I could make this an interface, maybe. Maybe override weak value. And for each type, I would provide a new field type. This way I can, inside object, can do this. This will be visiting each field. don't like those callbacks. Function requires an allocation, so maybe there is a better way to do this. So maybe instead of a callback, this function could return a span. Do more. Define field here. So now this is returning a span of pointers to member of the object class. Kind of weird, but now it should be possible to implement those functions without any sort of dynamic memory allocations. Could probably use the same trick for args and many others. Let's see if I can actually make this work. So put our key presser. I need to provide this new fields implementation. It should come before args. this needs to implement a couple methods. How do I take pointer to member? No, it should be presser. This is a problem. Okay, so this is a built-in function that allows me to get the offsets. Can I cast this? see what can I do with those pointers to members. Because under the hood, pointer to member is just an offset. So this offset off, we can actually even read this value statically. It says 80. This is kind of what we need. Okay, so we can convert pointers from base members to derived class. So conversion this way works. Is allowed with static cast. Okay, I just need to use static cast here. And instead of this offset off. It's awful. This is just awful. So I need to so this implements this on-off interface. It's there. Size 16 bytes. 16 bytes, that's strange. Oh, because it contains a vtable pointer and this weak override. That's right. maybe I just need to stack more casts. Dynamic, maybe? Interpret works. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Ooh, this is such an awful syntax. Yeah, but it seems that was plan B. I think we are cool. So let's go back to object HH. Actually, no, not object HH, object CC. Now, when we are listing fields, we can do this. And we can iterate over those fields. Type of this. Yeah, incomplete type. That's fine. That's fine. Oh, incomplete type, meaning I just need to include field HH. Yeah, so that was the problem. I think if I add some virtual methods here, totally mess up this object. Const I'm looking at this string field and it looks kind of weird. It's written like it's like Java. It's written like 7 times here. The string is kind of becoming slowly hypnotizing when you look at it like that. It's written 7 times by me, and it's also suggested a couple of times by the language server. Anyway, since field option is an abstract class. No, it's not. Maybe I need to put this in parentheses. Yeah, now it works. It still says it's an abstract class. We need to implement those functions. So all references to objects, they need to be wrapped in weak or regular pointers, and weak pointers are better. If we cannot lock the pointer, then it means the object was deleted. Let's just call it the field of a deleted object. Okay, here should show the I can do this, but for this field, the stuff that I implemented so far, it should be enough to actually show this many for the key presser. This key presser as all of this. Oh, timer also needs to do this.
SP is 5 pieces.
What is this theme contrast?
I don't know how to quantify contrast. It seems to be decent. Timers also have fields, but I will just ignore them for a moment, because they never worked, so it's no point fixing them. Undefined symbol, yes, I didn't define this class. I have this monitoring class. Let's go here. I can actually make this larger. So now there will be a little bit of magic. So this class, you can see it contains no pointers to the parent class, but there is a trick. Captain Chica should know about this because it's used a lot in the Linux kernel. That we can take the this pointer and subtract the offset of this field. So this gives us this gives us the address of the key presser. So this way we don't really need any extra members. It saves like 8 bytes per struct. Simple pointer arithmetic. We can even see that this is a constant. I'm just not sure if what I'm doing is the right thing to do. Because the whole point here this class but maybe bind is a better name than override. Oh, now this is kind of concerning. It's 24 bytes. 24 bytes is concerning because this field, this is just 8 bytes. The size of this, 16 bytes. So this class, it probably has a vtable pointer, like a second vtable pointer at the end. Yeah. I think that's fine. It's at the end, after all. Well. Okay, so the way this binding can work there are 3 functions here. If is on, I have on, let's call it turn on and turn off. When this monitoring is managed by the key presser, is on, just checks for the keylogging. this is how the functions will work normally. But when it's bound to window, can actually define also what window interpretation of this will do. So window, this on-off interface will check whether the window is activated. Turn on activates a window. And turn off deactivates the window. I'm not sure if there is a function to deactivate the window, so maybe if there is no, it will do nothing. Now, let's say I connect this monitoring of keypresser to the window. Now this function is on. Here should check whether window is activated. Turn on should activate the window. And call maybe not like that. And set keylogging to non-null. And when turn off is being called, there's actually something else here. This window can actually receive events from outside. It's tracking like an external state. So there is probably another function here. Should be probably added to the interface. A signal then can be subscribed, kind of.
As 989,072 says.
Hello.
Hey. There is new feature in on liveautomat.org just for you. In the account tab, you can now specify the name pronunciation. So if you want your name to be pronounced without all those digits, now it's possible to swap this out. This was added yesterday, a fresh thing. It actually allowed me to uncover some bugs in the account management, but I checked the database. I was the only person who was affected. I think...
Let's see if the TTS gets my custom name right.
Yeah, I will restart the overlay so that it will pronounce your name again. So the overlay will go down in a second. So 1, 2, 3 it should go down and should come back up. Okay, now it should pronounce your name when you say something.
AJ says,
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, it worked. I was also thinking about other things, but I guess they would be... they would probably like the ability to customize the username or the avatar. It's also an option, but I think it would be duplicating the functionality of, you know, YouTube, Twitch, and Discord. So I think those... I will just use the underlying platforms to get the avatar and username.
Yup, I'm Age.
Sweet. Is on off. The fact that everything here is multi-threaded creates some problems when doing callbacks. Because if I put some kind of observable signal here, let's say turned on.
Cindevelofpe says, have you ever tried coding with the hot dog stand theme?
I did try, didn't enjoy it very much. There is a theme like that. Yeah. I don't have this installed by... I've seen it. I think the people who made the hot dog stand theme, I think this could work. You just have to tone down the colors a little bit, make sure they work. And because pure yellow on a computer screen, it clashes with a lot of other colors. It doesn't look natural.
It's hilarious, 772 says.
I had a strange dream where C files with a CC extension, as opposed to CCP, could only be compiled by clan and no other compiler.
Cindevelofpe says, whole point is to be obnoxious.
On the extensions, I actually want to switch to some standard extensions like CPP and CHH. I just haven't gotten around to this yet. But yeah, I actually don't know where I got the CC and HH. It doesn't make sense to have HH. I was actually looking around, I haven't found many projects that use HH. It seems to be used by some people, because editors recognize this.
Not many projects use CC.
Yeah. Okay, I could register callbacks here, but those callbacks that I register here, they will kind of have to verify whether they're original object is still alive, kind of. Okay, maybe I need to add this signal class. Are we compiling now? Probably not. I didn't implement all of those functions. Let me quickly finish the implementation. Yeah, we don't need to do anything. Can I rename this to turn on? This is a big test of the Silang LSP. Those three names. You wouldn't believe how much. I think this LSP, Silang LSP, is just as big as AI when it comes to refactoring code. Yeah, it worked. It worked. Updated all usages. Let's change this to turn off. This is a big refactoring. If you look at sources, like it updated a lot of them. And all of this would have to be done manually, and it took me like 3 seconds to do now. Because I have this F2 rename. Incredible stuff. Okay, I want to add this mechanism to send signals, and we have something like this in location HH. We have these update observers, error observers. This implementation is totally broken. It doesn't account for object lifetime, so it hopes that nothing happens concurrently. If everything happens serially, yes, it's going to work fine, but the moment you have any sort of concurrency, there will be a data race here. And it's using locations. I don't like this class. I'm slowly getting rid of it. It's almost gone. Very few things left here. Very few things. Basically, connections, observers, and position of the object. those signals, if I add them here, they will also have this funny issue. So maybe this should be a list of weak pointers to other objects that should be notified. Yes, it's updated function. This opens another question. Should fields of objects be objects?
772 says,
Are virtual methods like static methods tied to classes instead of specific objects?
No, static methods. Sorry. Virtual methods are I'm not sure I understand the question. Actually thought it's related to these pointers. We've been playing with the pointers to members just now. But those pointers to members, they can actually work with virtual functions. I'm not sure what the syntax is.
I don't know what virtual functions are.
So virtual functions are functions that can be overridden. Like in most programming languages, all functions are virtual. But in C++, this requires a special annotation because each virtual function adds a little bit of overhead to the class type. So each virtual function is a pointer in the class type. If a function is not a virtual, the compiler can completely eliminate it from the program. It can be inlined. Yeah. But non-virtual functions cannot be overridden. If you define toggle here and toggle in another class, the toggle in another class, at compile time, the compiler will select one of them. It's not going to depend on runtime object. It's some kind of optimization. It gives you access to a slightly to the stuff that's happening under the hood. Just a little bit of access. I wish C++ had more features for controlling the vtable layout. Unfortunately, it doesn't. So when I hover over this on-off, you can see that this type has 8 bytes, even though it has no data. These 8 bytes, this is a pointer to the vtable. This is basically when you create an object of this class, it can be basically as small as 8 bytes if it doesn't have any data. It just needs a pointer to a table that defines where those functions should point to.
Oh, it seems to be related to object-oriented programming ...
Oh yeah. It's a slightly more efficient mechanism. So if I instead had something like I can have a regular function pointer, but you can see that each function pointer takes 8 bytes. So now the class is larger. I could have function pointers inside my class, but you can see that now it's much larger. Each of those pointers have to be stored separately. And virtual functions allow me to kind of compress all of them into the vtable of the class. And all of the objects of this class, they share the same table of pointers. Yeah, let me think about this. Should fields of objects be objects? I don't think they should. That would lead to kind of an object explosion. I think fields of objects should be encoded as efficiently as possible, and it should be possible to rebind them to objects. Let's say reference tracking. So field objects, fields. Okay. And when I'm looking at the key presser, this monitoring, I actually think that there are two sides to the on-off object. There is like a producer of values and consumer of values. If I expand this interface a little bit, there is something like this.
I found this video interesting.
URL.
Goes through many layers of software, hardware, and math stack. Found Keller's Olds.
Let's go from this start. There are no radio links between, unless you're using like mobile internet, you and the data center. Yeah, nothing like that. Yeah. It's insane what computers, do. What we kind of take for granted. Okay. Let me think what's kind of happening here. So there is the, say, OS level. So sorry, OS level variable that stores window activation. This is a boolean. Then there is the Automat's window activation state. Then there is key presser monitoring, and there is...
When would OS and Automat window activation values be distinct?
in the middle of an action. So when you alt tab between windows, like from Noita out, Automat tries to track the OS level state, but this tracking is done through messages. So this is what I'm trying to model right now. So there is window activated and deactivated. Those are like two messages that the operating system can send to Automat. And Automat, in response, updates its internal like boolean that says whether the window is active. I'm doing this because I think it's good to know what are the origins, like sources of events. And in the case of this monitoring, operating system never does this. Operating system doesn't tell us, hey, monitoring has started, stopped. We are sending the message there. So there is, say, an arrow from, let's say, the user. Turn on or turn off. And the thing is, yeah, I'm actually not sure how the directionality should work here. Because it's also possible for Automat to control this, to send activate and deactivate. It's not a part of the UI yet, but it could be. Those are of potential things we could add here. Now, those are all booleans that we store. And the point of binding is to, instead of storing two booleans, to store just one. When the turn on arrives, what we are doing here is we are sending this method start monitoring, stop monitoring. This I can delete, they are not fields. The question is what happens between them, so that this synchronization, how to structure the synchronization here. There are obvious solutions to this. We could just put signals and some kind of notification thing. I just want to make this as efficient as possible, because this is going to be used all over the place. It's good to have a decent design. So the kind of point of the field class is that this field can store the value locally, but it also has this override, this bind. And if this bind is present, then the key presser should actually defer, like instead of storing its state locally, it should store its state in Automat's window. Let me copy this. So let's say the state is stored here. And I'll be right back. Okay, so when key presser has a field and that field is bound, so this is our bind weak, some things will change. So when a deactivation happens, it should have the same effect as turn off from the user. So calling turn off on this object, and of call turn off here as well. And calling turn off on this key presser should no. It's kind of probably I should draw this. If an event comes from the top, I actually don't want to send any responses. When activate is being delivered, I'm just updating the boolean here. But here, it should have an effect. I feel like this is a graph search problem. We have a graph with, actually we can reduce the number of arrows. Let's call all of them activated, deactivated. And this absolutely is a graph problem. Consistency, I will change how we describe this. So when any of those components becomes it's also possible to turn off this directly, but I don't think user will do this, so I will maybe skip this from here. So let's say this is becoming active, so let's mark it like that. Window was activated. So in response to this, I should tweak the internal variable here of true. Let's say let's say we are just synchronizing them. And when I'm doing the graph search, I am visiting elements here. So I will mark visited elements with maybe dotted borders. So now I'm visiting, or gray borders. Gray borders are fine. I'm visiting this. So I turn this gray. And I need to look around for everything else that's connected and update them. So in this case, I look at the OS level window state, and it's already visited, so I don't visit it again. But this one was not, so I visit this one now. Now, this is a directed graph, so I cannot go against the arrow, so I cannot tell the user that, maybe I can probably notify the widget that the key presser was updated. Yeah, actually that's a good point. So let's call this widget. So I am updating the widget to reflect the updated state. And then, because this was didn't receive the value, I can also start or stop monitoring here now. And when two values are bound together, what really happens is that their set of incoming and outgoing edges is unified. So when this arrives here, I will have like a combined list of things to notify. But I feel like having a graph search here it seems like an overkill. It's possible to do this super fast. This is basically a recurrent function, this BFS DFS. Or even, it's even faster than recurrent function. I can avoid stack here. I can pre-allocate a tiny visited array on stack and avoid recurrent calls even. It's possible to do this graph search efficiently, but I think graph search is not what I want. Yeah, from the perspective of a single object, really what happens is that a signal always comes in through some path, for example from the widget, and all of the other paths have to be notified. And it's possible to actually give up this when I bind key presser to Automat's Windows state. It's possible to disable the direct on-off. It's possible to do it like that. Okay, so maybe here I could put something like feel like we're almost there. if I end up with just a regular signal activation where there is like on updated notification sent to other connected objects, then it will be a big failure. So maybe I can come up with something better. So the on-off interface here kind of defines the outgoing edges. It defines what happens when this key presser is turned on and it sends a signal out. So the Automat's window activation Okay, so any object that can be activated, it kind of needs to store a list of other objects which are monitoring. It's absolutely necessary. Because when this window receives the activated notification, it needs to send a signal to all of the other objects which are kind of connected here. It would be insanity to put a vector here. It will be very I'll also do this. Maybe I could create a paired object that would represent Windows activation, and that third object would store the list of on-off observers. So this will not be any object here. Be right back. So I'm back, and I haven't figured this out, but I will record some, key questions. Where to store the least not observers of objects that can react to an event. Inside the field, inside the object, inside the interface, or maybe we should roll out a third object here that will act as a coordinator for updates. Yeah, so I guess we will resolve this on Friday. I know this stream was super short, but this is a big problem that we are tackling here, and it requires more thought.
You also started early.
Yeah, it's already 3 hours. 3 hours is short for me, come on, 3 hours is nothing. I think this section here, this is the key to figuring this out. Depending on where we store this, we will get different, say, solutions. If we store this inside object owning the field, we will get a standard signal architecture. Very similar to how dbus works, actually. And actually most object-oriented authentications. I will think about this. Okay then, see you on Friday. Bye bye.